Right. Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Counselor's Corner for another open court discussion. I'm your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me, my co-host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Oh,
Tonight, June 30th. Where did this month go by? Where's life going? How did it go by? It's just crazy time. But tonight we'll be discussing the topic: are men toxic or misunderstood? We will be exploring a complex topic: whether men are inherently bad people. We'll examine various perspectives from societal expectations and historical context to individual experiences and personal growth. Let's dive into the nuanced discussion, considering multiple viewpoints and fostering a respectful conversation. This promised to be another good one. If you feel that men are toxic and not good people, please join the panel and we would love to hear from you. Please like and share our video, and don't forget to tell a friend to tell another friend to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Making progress, 46 subs away from 1K. Come on, people, let's go. So here we are tonight, and hey, me, I have been, school's been out since 16, a couple of weeks, but I had been working some days at the school. So, but today was one of the days, one of my first days that I didn't go in. So I'm cool with that. Then I'll be going in periodically for the remainder of the summer here and there. Still trying to, do a couple little hustles and stuff to prepare for the big plan. And that's pretty much what I've been working on. Got some other things cooking, just waiting to hear back and go from there. And it's scorcher outside, and this weather is a beast. And I'm one. Give me 80 degrees. Give me 80 degrees, and I'm good. 80 degrees with a little breeze and all this humidity and all this stuff is just it's too much. It's too much. People are like, oh, I want some hot weather. I want some hot weather. Some people just be talking because that shit is so miserable. So miserable to be hot, sweating, and all the time. And some people may be used to it, but I sweat too much. So it's just like I said, give me 80 degrees and I'm good to go. But let Big Bad Wolf drop off his house keeping information, and then we gotta, we've talked about this a little bit here and there, but I think it's picking up more momentum. This topic about women, what they're saying about men, and pretty much saying men hate women. That's the direction they've been trying to take
yeah,
it
pretty
in.
much.
So, Herb, what's good with you?
Man, just spent some time in the ER over the weekend. As some of you who are paying attention can tell, I got some swelling here. Kind of look like Steve Harvey. It's a reaction to blood pressure medication. So this is number 2 that I've had the reaction to. So I have an appointment tomorrow to go see a primary. So hopefully we'll get this addressed. It was a lot worse than this. Let me tell you that. But I went left. I actually left work to go to the ER. Was that bad? So I left work what amounts to Sunday morning, then get up to about almost Sunday afternoon because they wanted to make sure that it was just the lip that was swelling and not the tongue. Because I guess this version has a tongue swelling. So aside from that, down 8 pounds. I just got the scale, 304 pounds. So that's ever shrinking story. Like I said, I'm gonna keep you posted. Anybody that's on your own weight goal or weight loss or health struggle, I salute you. Keep going. Like I said, one step in the right direction. You'll get there eventually. Rolling Stone. But that's about it though, man. Orientation for the new job probably will start this Thursday, if not next week. And all she wrote. Independence Day is coming up for my people up north. So I salute them, Canada Day. and ours rolling right behind it. So it's gonna be a busy weekend be a busy week for us, at least in this area of the country.
Yeah, probably raise those prices up triple by now, especially this weekend coming up.
You know what, they may not. Business has been, at least in Niagara Falls, because we're a border city, we get a fair amount of um economic impact from Canadians coming south to shop. So with Trump in office and the tariffs, and they being understandably also upset, they're staying home and they're keeping the dollars with them. So we're seeing that impact over here. I felt it personally with I was cutting the job, and that's how politics work. There's a lot of people that are displeased by it. There's a lot of people saying it could have been phased in better. Look, bottom line is things need to happen. The things are going to either happen now or they were going to happen later. You got to adjust, tack it to the wind.
So
Watch
is
the
it
court.
true? I seen something, I don't know if it was Instagram, TikTok, or something about some executive order. And I don't be following and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
Trump saying about if you leave the country or nobody's coming in, if you leave, you may have to stay in that other country uh, for a certain amount of time or whatever. And I'm
What can't be done is you can't be made homeless. So if you are a natural born US citizen, or this for any country that for that matter, your government cannot force you into exile unless you've done something criminal. And even then you still have a right to come back to your home country. Now, if you're an undocumented immigrant or something of that nature, that's a different story. But no country can force you to become homeless. You have a birthright, ergo the 13th Amendment, to come back home here, regardless. Now they can detain you, but you still be on U.S. soil. But I've been hearing some wild things about some executive orders, so I had to do some digging myself. I've been out of the loop, kind of like the last week. So things that are pertaining to international travel, because international travel is down across the board. You got the situation with Iran and Iran, pardon me, Iran and Israel. So there's a lot of stuff that's impacting international travel. And I know my coworker, family's flight was redirected, and he's coming from across the Pacific. So there's a lot of stuff that's just going on. So people, there's a lot of uncertainty that's going on across the board. With a lot of ICE things and the rumors that blacks are going to be deported. Just make sure your shit's straight. So if they do run up on you, you ain't got nothing to worry about. Your ID, uh, motor vehicle registration, anything like that. And heaven forbid, don't be carrying the weapons that you aren't registered to carry. I don't care if somebody wants you to hold it. No, it ain't mine. I don't have a license for it, because that's just one more reason to get jammed up. So don't do anything stupid during this period of time and get yourself jammed up and then talking about they always looking for the black man. They looking for the dumb black man.
And speaking of that, I was going through something because when my whip had got stolen, I had another vehicle, but they didn't do the proper protocol
Yep.
for that. They actually, I had my old tags from the car
Hmm.
that I had got. They had sent them to me from the salvage department, so I had them with me when I went to the dealership, and they just put them on the new car, and
Yeah.
without really doing the paperwork or the process through DMV or
Yep.
MVA they call it here. So I'm going through all this stuff, just like, yo, where's my regular permanent registration? Then
Yep.
they come find out, I look for it. They're like, oh, you should have got it. The salesperson, you should have got it in your car. And I know it. Here, it's usually this long white strip, but it was like some yellow carbon paper, like old antiquated shit. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it was just a fiasco. But um, not this past weekend or the weekend before, I actually um, came to Niagara Falls, and I'm driving, and I end up getting pulled over. So I'm like, oh, because clearly this car, I was still at that point, my registration had went through, but I was just taking a chance, like I should be good. But must have got careless, and was speeding, and a Caucasian guy comes up to me and, yo, you realize you were going 45 in the 30 zone or something. But I'm like, man, long day, whatever. And actually, then they're like, oh, where you coming from? And it was raining for a while. And I was like, well, got caught out in the little rainstorm. And like, oh, you're lucky you didn't come a couple of days ago. Like a lot of people's houses got flooded out. So I was taking that conversation there. Man, been a long year. I always thought that I'm a counselor at the school. So, and let that marinate in there. So we just kept talking. And then he eventually said, oh, you got your license? And went to his car. Then he was like, came back and said, just be mindful of the thing and just, let me go. And I was like, man, somebody could. He would have asked for all the registration and all of that stuff. It would have been all jacked up, and I would have had to explain. And he was like, "Oh, I ain't buying this," but somebody was looking out to say, "You don't deserve this. You ain't deserve it. You should have been driving in your old whip in the first place." So I got through that, but I can understand when you don't have your paperwork tight and all that. Just no matter what, even though you may think eventually. And that's for anything. Eventually, you're going to get caught with something.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get caught. So don't think like, oh, I'm doing good or I'm all right when you're doing something like criminal-minded. You're just going to get caught one day. And this wasn't my fault. I'm like, I never went through any of this stuff. I'm pissed that I had to go to the MVA 2-3 times, and they keep telling me, oh, you need a total loss letter. You need this and that. And I'm like, yo, like what is going on here? But it made me realize too, when it's something important that you purchase in, whether it's a home, a vehicle, and you have a person that come up to you, check their history. Ask a little something. Make sure you got the right person with experience handling you. Somebody like, oh, I've been doing this for 3 months. And you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, but sometimes you may just have to decline and like, oh, I prefer somebody a little more experienced. And that's the way I got to think now. Because the young lady, she was a black woman, and, I'm like, okay, we cool, we should be all right. But when I was, we sat there and talked, and, she was asking about my background, and I was like, how long you been working here? She's like, 2-3 months. I should have said, but now I know whenever I have to make a purchase again, don't come in my face, but you only been somewhere and you like a damn intern somewhere. Now you ain't qualified to help me. So sometimes you got to be mindful of that. Don't accept that assistance from the first person right away. Ask questions and check out get their history, their background information, so your shit won't be jacked up.
Yeah, you have to advocate for yourself, and that goes with not to knock any staff in any profession, but when I was in the ER, there were the person that was discharging me, giving me the information, was saying that I needed to take the blood pressure medication. I said, "Oh, wait a minute." I said, "No." She said, "Yeah." I said, "No." I said, "Not according to what the paperwork says. I should." I said, "But what the doctor told me was to take neither one." I said, because the first one was responsible for me retaining water and my ankle swollen. I said, the second one was responsible for this. So the only thing I should be taking is a water pill. She came back, she said, you were correct. So people make mistakes, regardless of what profession you're in. So like David said, either you get somebody with experience or you be your own advocate. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah. So enough of that housekeeping stuff. So, for just the meat and potatoes on hand about our man toxic or misunderstood. But we know that, and that clip had just came up, I think the other day. We had firsthand information we dealt with, like Princella, what's she call herself? Queen Maker.
Queen Maker, yeah.
So actually, we started off the trend of the first people she started interviewing, then she called herself like frying all men. So I was the first one who got fried, so she said. And it was somebody commented and said, And again, like I said, I'm gonna start calling y'all asses out. I'm gonna find pictures, and y'all gonna be right on this damn screen, and, and you gonna get the attention that you looking for. I swear, if
Yeah.
I was savvy like that, I would have that shit going across, and I might just take the time to do that when you're talking out of pocket. So there's like, oh, he's lying. Uh, he wanted to bring another um, person on the show. How am I lying when um, I ended up being in, for some reason, Facebook jail? So I said she was supposed to come on our platform, and it couldn't happen. Then she was like, hey, well, you could come on my platform and kind of run the show like you normally do. And then I said, well, I have a co-host and all that. But then she's like, oh, I only want to speak to you. So it was already premeditated, but she thought I was coming on here to debate. And I was really just coming on to kind of interview and actually like about her perspective because she was saying some wild stuff. Like men are incapable of love. They have, because of our brain, we have no ability to have empathy and things of that nature. So that was going to be, but she took the opportunity to run it somewhere else. And then when her came on, she didn't really give you a chance to say anything and kind
Oh no,
of
she ran. Yeah, she tucked tail.
booted you off. And then I know my brother was in the chat and he was saying stuff. She ended up blocking his comments and all that stuff. So, but she was, making those statements. I'm like, it's unfortunate that you had those issues with males, but that's not the case with everyone. And then you sent me that K Michelle clip, and she was saying that man was the pretty much the stint of her trauma is by men, and men are just not good people. I'm like, wow, they're really going in with this and taking it far. And I know that you could capture a certain audience with that because they might, had but the thing is always two sides to a story. So, some women will put the blame on men, and then sometimes men put the blame on women. But more than likely, it's not 100% one way. It's something. It's a bunch of people have a part to play in it. Some people maybe 70-30, it may be 60-40, it may be 80-20, or whatever the case is. But I doubt if it's just 100% lopsided. And if it's that lopsided, then you should have seen some signs way before that time. But a lot going on with those statements and men hating women and things of that nature. Here, I love them, and don't get me wrong, they get on your damn nerves just like anybody else. But to try to put that emphasis on men being the source of people's trauma, and it may play a big deal, but I gotta believe that it's other prior stuff too. There's other issues that probably happen that you don't want to just your source of trauma. You're just not going to pick up when you're an adult and say this was the reason. There probably was something happened in your childhood too that you just swept under the rug, and then all then all of a sudden now you want to face with it, and it happens to be Melvin that you've been with for years, and he did you wrong. So all of a sudden, all males become that type of target, and for you to make a statement, because she made an absolute statement. Men are just not good people. That was an absolute. That was wild. She was definitely reaching. So, her,
I'll,
got
I'll,
to add to
I'll,
that.
yeah, I plugged in Born Bad in the search engine. And what came up, well, several things came up, obviously. But the one thing I took a little reading on was a page called the California Learning Resource Center, so SLRC for short. And they listed three things similar to what you just covered in learning as kids. There's social learning, which is observational and then taking behaviors in your community, your home. There's cultural norms. For blacks, we have two sets. We have urban and we have suburban, rural if you want to stretch that. Although there aren't very many blacks in rural areas, until you get to the South, which is why there's distinct dating patterns between what we do when we consider to be what's up north and what's considered normal down south. And I'll get into that in a moment. And then what they call the adverse childhood experiences. These are kids that are neglected, abused, or they suffer some type of mental health in their upbringing. That's a group I want to pay particular attention to because that's the group that a lot of these people come from, particularly the men. So when you have the different dating groups, North versus South, you have us Northern cats, brothers, who tend to be straight laced when we're dealing with women. Now, some call it the game, some call it pimping. However you would terminize it. However you was determined, however you was to terminate. These men tend to talk around what they want from women. And this is why a lot of women say men are committed phobes, they only after one thing, this and that. Into that, I'll inject what I call the 10-man rule, the 10-man standard. For every 10 men you encounter, whether you're in the North or South, a woman does, she's going to find herself immersed in certain things. But she generally doesn't ask, she assumes. What does he want? What is his intentions? And what do I want? Now, we often talking about Alan Roger Curry in Mode 1. Virtually every man that a woman meets, if he establishes some type of interest in her, generally speaking, the bottom line will be sex. That's for just about 100% of men. That is a biological function of man. Doesn't make him toxic, doesn't make him unfairly judged. That's just what drives his nature. And a lot of that seems to be lost on women. They say, well, why does it have to be like that? Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be here. It's a kind of urge that drives men. Okay? So let's look at that first. Now, if you filter out men who have good intentions versus men who have nefarious intentions, you're probably going to get 6-4. So 4 of those men are going to have intentions that are to do right by you. They're going to date or court you. They're going to treat you well. They want to have a long-term relationship with you. The only problem the women are going to ask is this: well, do I like him that much? Does he have that, whatever it is that I'm looking for, that it factor? And 4 of those men aren't. So that's going to leave you with the 6. And most likely those 6 men are going to have some of what women consider to be toxic traits. He's only trying to bed you. He ain't trying to have a long-term relationship with you to the point where you're talking about marriage and kids. So now you wipe out another 3. And the 3 you have left are hardcore guys who don't give a damn about nothing but bedding you and getting on to the next conquest. And those seem to be the type of women that the K. Michelles and what's her name gravitate toward. Why? Because they have that it factor. Nobody wants to be with a man, well, no women anyway, wants to be with a man that does not emotionally excite them. Women are driven more by emotion than they are by logic. I know we continue to hear that women are more emotional than men. It's not that they're more emotional. We're both emotional. We just depend on emotions at different times and in different ways. So when you hear these women talk about men are incapable of love, they're absolutely correct. But according to the female definition of love, because if you ask a man what's love and ask a woman what's love, you're going to get 2 completely divergent answers. And it's understandable. Women are more based on feelings. So if a woman doesn't feel, quote unquote, love from a man, she's going to say he's incapable of showing me love. Ask her, well, What does love mean to you? And you'll find out that she's correct. But this is where the unfairly judged for men comes in. Because for men, love isn't doing things for me. Love is showing me respect. Love is showing me that you revere and you respect what I do. So if I'm married to you or we have kids, am I taking care of the house? Am I providing for the kids? Am I there when you need something? That's how men show love. Women want you to show love by taking them places, doing things. Um, all those little things, remember dates. Oh, that's how he shows me love. You'll never get two people on the same page.
And let me
So
just chime in.
yeah,
And I think the bigger thing is for me is the respect factor. You know what? I prefer to be respected than love. Like if you don't have a respect for a man, he's gonna feel it's no way you could possibly love him
right.
if you can't show him respect. And respect would be just could be little things, as you know, family function, you're around, and the way that you may, talk to him and or whatever the case is, and he may feel like he's real disrespectful if he asks you something and you're rolling your eyes or sighing and trust and believe you know that his family members is peeping everything, watching everything, and if they give him this look like, yo, what's up with that? Um, that's a form of disrespect. Or man, again, we talked about this before. Big on safety. If he tell you this is what your expectations, let me know you made it home safe. Just want to know you
Right.
made it home safe. Or you could be working, or whatever the case is. Just want to know. But if you decide, oh no, I'm not going to do it. I ain't got the answer to him, or whatever the case is. But again, I always keep going back to a lot of people's decision, men and women, are based on the people that you be around. And
Yeah.
until you be able to work as two and realize it's just me and you at the end of the day, what's the song? Just me and you. Was it Tony, or whatever? Raphael Sadiq,
Just
whatever.
2020. Yep. Just me and you.
uh, yeah, just it's just y'all two at the end of the day, and y'all the ones have to face each other and deal with it. Then you should both parties should act accordingly. So not to throw you off her, but that respect piece
You're good.
is vital in
No,
regards
it
to
is.
you talk about the love thing.
It is. And when you look at it, just like you said, what you're surrounding that goes to the first two issues, the culture norms and the experiences. Not just in Black America, but more so focused. But in the United States, we have a growing single mother culture. That's not good, it's not bad, it's what comes of it that's good or bad. So when boys and girls, let's start with the girls first. As a young female, prepubescent, you see your mother dealing with all kinds of men, but the same type of man. You start to identify with certain traits. So if your mother, pardon me, brings in a certain kind of man and he doesn't work, he's just laying up. They have random sex. He comes, the next man doing the same thing. You start to think that that is all men do. Your mother never sits down and explains to you that that's the type of man that she can attract. Why? She doesn't think she has to. You grew up in your now you start to enter puberty, you start to go into your community, and that's all the kind of men you see. You see men that are randomly coming, randomly going. They ain't establishing no 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 clear cut, delineated reason for them to be there other than to engage in sex with a woman. You start to replicate that. You go to high school, you see these young boys that got that it factor. but they treat you a certain way. But because you've identified that as love, you tend to track men. Track men, I won't say that. You tend to deal with men or young boys who behave that way. So you're dealing with the D boys, the boys who are kind of on the fence of smoking weed, drinking a lot. At least in our days, it was Boone's Farms. That's what the cats that hung out joint. No big deal. We hanging on the street corner. Yo, shorty, let me holler at you. Those are the type of men you deal with. Oh, leave me alone. You ain't no good. You just want one thing. So what's wrong with the one thing? And this is where the game come in. And that's been a part of Black America for at least going back to the Black exploitation era, which is the 1970s, the era that we grew up in. So if you look at all these women who have the issues like the K. Michelle, they are direct descendants of Gen X women. That first generation that actually really got to be free to choose who they wanted to. In other words, there were no arranged marriages. You got the ability to go to college, to self-select who you wanted to have sex with. Nobody monitored that. This is why you see the explosion of single-parent homes with that generation. Is if you sit down and you just look at the numbers, you say, oh, it starts to make sense. So where are the men who don't have kids? So where are the men who didn't have that street swag? Those are the ones that eventually got married. Those are the ones who eventually settled down. Those are the men you never hear about. Why? Because that type of stuff doesn't sell. Women can't trauma bond over positive things. They say, no, come on over, bring the family. We barbecuing. You see them at family reunions. You see some of the older ones in church. Their grandkids are doing okay. They're not in harm's way. They're not living in poverty. When you look at Black America as a whole, only about 30% of us, I think roughly, will be considered to be impoverished. And the biggest two groups, women and their dependent children. Women who are married, they're very rarely impoverished. And if they are, they're generally struggling together. They won't be there long because they're working to move up. But a woman that's single on Section 8 or some type of government assistance, she can't do that because she has nobody else. That village isn't there anymore. So there's no support. So they're going to view the person who put them there as the reason why they're there. They have no impetus to look at their own decision making in there. They're not culpable because some man led them to the bed, some man got them pregnant, some man left them there. And this is where we come in with the toxic men. Like I said, they're out there. Those men are only looking for the one thing. So how do you redirect these women who have already trauma bonded over that, who expressly believe that every male that they encounter is toxic? You can't do anything for them. You got to let them go. You have to let them figure out on their own via saying, hey, look, you don't have anybody, any male in your life that's trustworthy, that's going to do right by you, even if it's a friend. Well, yeah, but I don't like him like that. It's not about whether you like him like that. You need a template to show you that there is some good in some men that you know. And it's rinse, wash, and repeat. Rinse, wash, and repeat. And until women start to filter out for themselves what they deem good, what they deem love, and what's beneficial for them, they're going to stay there. And nothing that anybody does, nothing that anybody shows them is going to convince them otherwise. This is why you have women like Princella that have the following. People like K. Michelle that have the crowd believe in them. I feel bad for them. You got to go through life watching over your shoulder, not dealing with the opposite gender because you feel they're out to get you. That's got to be a terrible way to live. And quite honestly, I don't know what that feels like. But I filter out well. I identify almost immediately by certain things that are, you know what? That person ain't for me. Where that person going, I don't want to go that way. But a lot of women, because they grew up like that. Their antennas is off. They filter from one thing and they allow that thing in there, and then they wonder why when they get burnt. Well, why do I keep getting burnt? You keep choosing the same kind of guy with the same kind of characteristics because that's the only thing you know. They come across a lane, quote unquote lane, they run them off. Why? Because the lane is like, look, I ain't got to deal with that. My mother raised me better, and that's what they can't fight through. So we see in the manosphere, there's a certain segment of women, pick me's, who are out here advocating against the toxic masculinity. They say these men aren't toxic. It's the men you choose. No, 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 no. Everyone I come across is toxic. Nobody's met everyone.
See,
So it's impossible for everybody, or at least our demographic, to be toxic, because some of these men are your brothers, fathers, nephews, cousins. Now I could go with at least 4 or 5 women right now and be like, look, he's an excellent guy. He's not toxic. He just has certain things that he's not going to deal with. And that's when women say you're toxic, when men won't let you get away with certain things that you think you should get away with because you've always gotten away with it. Well, the reason why you've always gotten away with it is because that guy that's just fucking on you and that's all he wants, when you start to act up, he gone.
see, and that's one of the things that I want to tell you. I'm going to equate things to sports. A lot of times people go into situations and they salary cap struck, but they don't have no options. They got to move in quarterly. They're not at full strength. So if you're a woman or even a man and you got tremendous deficits, uh, and you give someone that power over you,
Mm-hmm.
and things may work out your way at first. They're getting it good, they're getting the work and all that stuff, but then all of a sudden you become too reliant on that individual. That's when uh, he's toxic. He's a narcissist, or whatever the case is. But again, we always say, are you prepared today? Are you really ready to go back out there when you're in a salary cap struck situation? You know that you don't really have that much movement and you can't do certain things or make certain decisions. Then you add somebody on and they're kind of like your savior, but they're like, yo, she too damn needy. Or, man, every turn around, this is coming up. This is coming up. Like, how is this benefiting me?
Right.
And then once they give you attitude, or like, nah, I ain't doing that right now. I'm not about that. I just did this. I just did that. I'm not gonna keep doing this. And then you try to finagle the game and like, well, then you want to go back to I thought men's supposed to be the providers and take care of this and take care of that. The issue wouldn't be for many men if they were capable of doing that. It's about and we talked about this on the main Dane show, whatever. Like your character. If you got high character and you
Yeah.
going to make sure this is done. I ain't saying being a servant for that person, but you just go about it in a respectful manner, and you make that person's life little easier as they try to make your life easier. Because what's the point of dealing with somebody if the shit is going to be more difficult, or if it's going to be
Yeah.
an uphill battle every time? So when when certain forces is pulling one way and pulling the other way, that's where you hear this toxic stuff, or he's too controlling. He's too, and some men it may not even be controlling. They just may want respect, and this is with they got standards. Like women have standards. We both have our sets of things. So let's not get it twisted and think that your word is bond, and a man can't say, well, this is my expectation. We all have expectations. But again, I think it's the great Michael Jordan said, you have to have expectations of yourself before you have expectations of others. So
Yeah.
you got to have expectations of yourself. But once somebody drops something like, this is what I don't like, this is what I don't agree with, this is a non-negotiable for me, then sometimes that person becomes toxic and narcissist or whatever the case is. So you're gonna keep hearing these type of things, whatever, and some of y'all fall victim to it, and people would take you there and they'll say little things where he was like this, he was like that, but then um, you might speak it to the wrong person. They're like, nah, I know him personally. That's not how he was raised. You
Right.
had to do something. What did you do to cause that? And that's how people need to be able to respond. Because sometimes people just eat up shit. Like, okay, oh yeah, yeah. Then they turn against that person without even kind of finding out all the information. So hey, make sure that that's why you got to be on point when you're out there to be ready to date or to progress. If you're at a deficit and you're digging yourself out of a hole,
Yeah.
then you don't know what you're going to get out that relationship. It could be some self-serving ass man to say, "Well, she weak as hell. I can do whatever. She need me," and then he could be an asshole.
Yeah.
Or it could be somebody like, you know what? It's a good woman. She had a hard time. Just want to help her out with her. I like her. She got kids. They cool. They respectful. But it's everything's probably going to be based on respect. You better respect her. The kids better respect her. And then they'll be like, okay, I'll move mountains. But if you want to be rolling your eyes and talking under your breath, and then your kids kind of doing the same thing because they mimicking your behavior,
Right.
then shit, you may you may say, oh, he was just toxic, or that's the excuse you're gonna throw. He was too controlling, but all he wanted was a little respect.
Yeah, it's make no mistake, it is difficult to break a behavioral mold, particularly if you're a woman and you've had a child. There are certain things you are never going to be able to do, especially let's say you're a woman, young woman, and you've had a child at the age of 20. You are never going to be able to take a vacation without worrying about how your child is doing. So your mind is already divided. Conversely, you're never going to be able to go to college and live on campus. You're never going to be able to party on the weekend like an average 20-year-old college student. That's a part of life that you're never going to get experienced. And from there, all this deep-seated disgust, hatred comes about because you got with the man, not necessarily the wrong man. You got with a man. Y'all two got hot. Things went the way they are, and hell, he might be out doing his thing. He might be in college. He might be going to frat parties all weekend. He may not have called to tuck on the child. And here you are in this situation. You have every right to be resentful. You have every right to think men are toxic because that's a template you're stuck with. That's the groove you in. That's that lane. You're never going to escape that lane. You're going to be a mother longer than you would not have been. It's the best things you got. Now, I will say this. The key, and yes, as difficult as this is going to be for some of you women here, you have the key now. You have the key to either open doors, close them, don't put anything else in that basket. You got to lay your cards on the table. Every man that you encounter, You got to ask yourself, how can he benefit me? And I know this goes contrary to what some people in the manosphere say. Hear me out. She has to do that because she can't afford any more missteps. So, this is what women you got to grow. You got to say, what do you want from me? Because I don't know what I can do for you. Because I can't do for self. You got to admit that, women. You can't do for self. Because all of you out there thinking you can't, if you could, you wouldn't be calling men toxic. You'd be saying, look, this is the kind of guy I like. This is the kind of guy I need. In between my needs and my likes, I have to sacrifice my likes for what I need. I need a man who's going to come in here and offer me some kind of stability. And women, all of you out there talking about your single parents and this, you're not as stable as you think you are. The statistics are bearing that out. Why? Because your kids suffer. If you were as stable as you thought you were, your kid would be doing great in school. That ain't the way. And David can, and I'm sure David can attest to that as well as I can, as well as standardized test scores in jail. Because by the time your kid get to 14, 15, they're starting to mimic all the things about you that you don't like. Why do you behave like this? Why are you talking back? Why can't you do what I just asked? Because you won't do what a man asks. If a man's trying to fulfill a role, you got to acquiesce some of that power that you have. You have to acquiesce to him because you chose him. You chose him for a reason. Either you chose him because you think he's going to do right by you, or he's showing you through his life that he's doing right by himself. So by default, if he's doing right by himself, then he has to do right for you. There's a phrase in the verse with Pete Rock and CL Smooth that says, if a man can't treat you right, he can't teach you right. So if a man is treating you well, it stands a reason that he's going to do well by you in every other category that you need. So like David said, your children got to fall in because you don't have too much wiggle room. So if you happen to get you made it through your early 20s, you got some stability about you, you found a guy that you can latch on to, you ain't committed to him because you don't trust him. Understandable. You say, hey, look, how about we move this thing forward? And you still a little hesitant, you still a little, because you're unsure. This is the first time in your 25 years that you've actually encountered a man who actually wants to do right by you. You're looking for the trick because that's all you've ever encountered. And I understand that. He don't put his cards on the table. You know where he works. You know his family. He has all the characteristics that you never checked off before, that your child needs. So you say, I don't know. He says, all right, he hangs out a little longer. You mess around and you get caught up in some trap with the same kind of cat that you used to. Now you found out you're pregnant. What do you do then? The cat that was loyal, that was by your side, that wanted to take you under his wing, make you a whole family unit. Now you let an indiscretion get in between that. And you tell him, and he says, you know what? I can't be a part of this. He says, see, I knew you were just like the rest of them. He's going to say, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm just like the rest of them? When things get hard, when the chips are down, you want to go. You just like the rest of them. You just wanted something and you out. He's been there 5 years. Just to help you get on the straight and narrow. And now you take the misstep with another guy that you have the propensity of liking more because there's no standard of behavior you don't have. there's nothing you have to adhere to. There's no expectation. So you fall back into the old trap. It's comfortable. And now you got some cheese in the trap. And the guy said, no, I gotta go. I gave you 5 years. Committed. You don't have to worry about me. I didn't abuse you. I didn't mistreat your child. I tried to take you under my wing. I wanted to make his whole family. And you rejected that. See, this is how we stay on the track of men are toxic. Because like David said, she can't get what she wants. She got to give up some level of control. And for women to give up a level of control when they've always had it, you might as well be asking them to drive their car, borrow money, all the things that they're going to say no to. They're not even thinking about it. It's just outright rejection. No, I'm not listening. I'm not doing what you said because I don't have to. Now you're stuck with 2 children, no future prospects, and you got no man there to help you out. That's how the men become unfairly blamed. Because when they want to do right, the woman's not sure if she wants to do right. And I've seen it. I've almost experienced something like that myself. And I'm going to tell you, I've never been the type of guy that was in the streets like that because I've been to college. I've always worked. You already know my situation about having to deal with a child that was being unfairly labeled as mine. So we out here, us men who are unfairly blamed, we walking around, we just sit back on the sidelines, and we just watch traffic move and say, that's a car accident waiting to happen. Oh, that's a car that's already been remanufactured. That's the front bumper replaced, the passenger door. We see it all. So when we hear the toxic masculinity phrase, we say, yeah, they done dealt with some toxic men. They done dealt with some men that use them up, abuse them. What do you rhythmic saying? And Sweet Dreams Are Made of These. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world in 7 seas. Everybody looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be abused by you.
And one of the things I also have to say, sometimes there's situations you put yourself in. Like, if you hanging out with people that they're married or they coupled up and they're having something, get together, and you're single, and that's part of the problem too. What is it called? FOMO, fear of missing out. Some of y'all struggle with that. Like, there's no need for you to say, oh, well, man, hey, they're together, they're married, and I'm always single, so I got to bring somebody. Now you just bring anybody. And you keep bringing the same person around, but you know that you're not fulfilled, and that person doesn't do it for you, and anything he does, he can offer to make your plate, and all of a sudden you're gonna say he do too much. He a people pleaser, so he's not gonna win. He's gonna be toxic. He's gonna be everything because that's not the person you want to be with there. But sometimes it's okay to say no. I'm not going to attend. I'm not going to do it. But the fear of missing out is so great that worse than kids. We worse than kids because kids, at least back in our days, they would find somewhere to occupy themselves. If they couldn't go to a party or whatever, they would have certain things. Well, now these kids, they can definitely be in their bed and probably see what was going on at the party and, be talking live with people. But as an adult,
streaming alive,
if you don't got shit to do, you ain't got nothing to do. So therefore, that drives you to always want to go where you feel awkward at, or you have to take somebody there that annoys you or irritates you on sight. but because you want to fit in and have someone, you allow it. I'm gonna say this. I ain't never been. If I don't feel comfortable or if somebody ain't there that's gonna make me comfortable, I have enough to do and I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I'm just not gonna go anywhere and feel displaced. So a lot of you feel displaced. You roll with the roll with individuals that you don't want to roll with, and that just add to it. So fall back on certain situations. Certain situations may not be your time. I mean, just because your friends or your crew or whatever the case is, don't mean you have to attend. There'll be some other things. Maybe the next event will be just for the girls or for the guys or whatever the case is. But you have to pick and choose what's going to make you comfortable. And, and that's being an adult, like uh, figuring out what situations work best for you without being follow the leader. I don't go. She's going to be mad at me. Or if they're mad at you because you didn't show up or whatever the case is, ain't your freaking people to begin with. Because when you're an adult, anything can go down. You could be tired from the work week. You could have a migraine.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, you could be in pain. You could have back pain. You could have anything going on when you get a certain age. Like, I just went up to it. I just went up to you. Don't nobody no damn explanation. If they got an issue with it, they probably not the one for you. I'm glad I had a position I had. You don't talk to me, you don't have to shit. We ain't got to fucking talk. We ain't have to talk never again. If that's how you want to come. So and and that's being solid in who you are to know can replace you with someone else. But some of us just struggle with the outer influences, whatever that drive all of this conversation about being toxic, and because you're really being around, you're here getting information from the wrong sources, and it's kind of
Yeah,
driving your decisions. I'm saying,
yeah. It's difficult for actually for both genders to really get good solid information. Especially if they entered into their 30s and they've never been in a committed relationship a long term. And I found a list and I thought it was interesting from the Bigger Play um podcast. And this was just a clip. And I read these things, wrote them down, and they were labeled as hard truths. HARD TRUTHS. First one was this: nice men are used, shy men are ignored, weak men are abused, soft men are pushed around, patient men are exploited, ruthless men are respected, honest men are deceived, loyal men are taken for granted, emotional men are mocked, quiet men are overlooked. These I've heard come from Princella, come from Michelle K. That they can't find men who are emotionally vulnerable, who won't show their soft side, who won't be truthful, honest, all these things. And that's because these men have encountered a woman who operates only from the mindset and the perspective that the men who aren't toxic need to pay a price for those who were toxic. It's like the adage, you can't make a bad girl good, but once a good girl's gone bad, she's gone forever. And that's true. Because once a female gets a hold of something, it taints her. and there usually is no coming back for her. And I'll give you two movie references where that played out. One of them is a very old movie, Eddie Murphy, Trading Places. If you remember the movie Trading Places, you saw what a very wealthy people can descend to in terms of their behavior when they get desperate. Women who are living with that mindset that men are toxic, they're living a certain way. They're living to survive. And if they got to get over on a man, they rationalize it by saying, what? They're toxic. Why do I care? And how do you tell them they're wrong? All their encounters are based in getting over and dealing with toxicity. None of them are upright. None of them are righteous. None of them are at par with somebody who's dealing with them from a level of honesty, from a level of transparency. And when I say transparency, I mean complete transparency. Yo, I just want to dig you out. I just want to take you out. I got a couple extra dollars. There's a movie. There's a group I know you like. Let's go see the group. Now she thinking, okay, he's gonna try and get something afterwards. No, that's not how this guy rolls. But because you have never seen it before, you're skeptical. You're suspicious. You have every right to be. But at what point? And this is what K. Michelle said in the extended interview. I'm gonna build that wall up, and he's gonna have to climb over that wall. What happens if he makes it to the top of that wall and you see what could be? And then all of a sudden you say, you know what? That's scary to me. I don't like that. It makes me feel uncertain. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Now you got to deal with what's in that you haven't fixed. I'm not going to say heal. You haven't fixed. That's going to allow you to move on, just like David said with the married couples. You can't fit in because you don't know how. Somebody takes you to a fine restaurant, sits you down in front of a 4-course meal. You don't know what fork to use. You think one cup is for every beverage. They got a champagne glass, a wine glass, coffee cup. You ain't got to do nothing but sit there and be served. You think this is crazy. Who lives like this? I certainly don't. Nobody I know certainly do. You go back, you tell your girl, look, I met this guy. We went to this restaurant. Everything was filled with tablecloths. There's maitre d's. I can't live like this. I don't know how to live like this. You're scared. It makes sense. The unknown scares anybody. You take somebody that's accustomed to, like I said, the movie Trading Places. I'll give you another movie, one that's more up to date. Drumline. You had two people from two different classes get together, and my man had to learn. And once the girl found out, she felt like she had been tricked. Now, my man wasn't necessarily toxic. He just wasn't on the level. He wasn't in the class. So that's when the fight broke out, when they found out all of this stuff. And he was like, yo, I thank you, man, for fighting with me. That's like, we weren't fighting for you. We was fighting for A&T. And then he realized he was in a different class. He came from a single father home. Not that his father didn't do right by him. His father just couldn't show him another world that he never belonged to. And that's what a lot of women are struggling with when they talk about toxicity in men. They've never been in the world where men were upright, forthright, honest dealing, straight shooting. That's crazy. Where do men do that? And why would they want to do that? Because all I'm going to do is use them, abuse them, and get away from them. Got to change. You got to, if you want different, you got to do different. You got to get uncomfortable, as David is fond of saying. And if you don't, continue to expect to deal with men who are dishonest or be alone. As however you classify being alone or being single. Because we know you're not single. You're just not with a man that's committed. You're out there having sex, you're running the risk of getting pregnant again without being married. So all you're gonna do is compound your problems. Gotta change. Gotta find somewhere within yourself to say, okay, you know what? I'm done trying to skate uphill. I need to do something different.
So what about one of the perspectives is when you have to deal with the gender-based violence, GBV, the domestic violence, sexual assault and rape, harassment and stalking, human trafficking, female genital mutilation, violence against LGBTQ plus individuals. When you have males that perform or display those issues, that's at a different level, and it happens. We know that domestic violence and sexual assault and rape happens, but I tend to believe when it does happen, it's probably a male, and I'm not making any excuses at all for, but they're probably someone that's had their own internal struggles,
Yeah.
and they're weak, and they've probably been one who never had control of their situation or environment, and it may be a case. I was just watching a movie last night on YouTube. This guy, he was in the church, and he was his family. But he was controlled by the church, the members, his family members, and the woman he married was at one point she was a woman that went to college, Columbia, but then she got turned off by the church, and then she ended up getting into, dealing with the wrong type of individual, like type pimp type of guy, and she kept going back and forth between them. Now the one that was in church, he was clearly he felt he was weakened, and I don't think he never put his hands on anything like that. He would just mentally beat her down because she didn't accept the church, the following of the church. So she felt it easier to go over to the other side with the other guy, but he wasn't necessarily good either. So I, I believe when people, if that becomes like habitual behavior, it's because they have a lot of deficits and insecurities that lead them to domestic violence. And sometimes women, and any man should be able to walk away. My grandfather always said, you got to put your hands on a woman. You got to fight a woman.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do it one way. Women said that, but my grandfather said, there's no place to be fighting a woman. He was, and one of the examples he said, that's why a man and woman can't share a car. He said a man got to be able to move. If you get into one of them heated situations, you got to be able to move. And if you're in a controlled environment like that, then it's gonna be hard to move. But when you think about it, those situations, again, like I said, it's a situation where somebody may feel weakened or less than, and sometimes women may say little things and throw stuff out there because you feel like you got the upper hand. Like, you so sorry, you can't do shit. I should have just stayed with such and such.
Yeah.
Even though he was in jail, whatever. At least when he was here, I ain't have to worry about this. I ain't have to worry about no shut off, nothing. Or if I wanted money to do this, now this man working hard, trying to do everything he can. You end up not settling, but you end up trying to change up the game and get with somebody doing right, you continue to beat the person down, and which may lead to some guys being weaker than others, not just being able to walk away because you may be his golden ticket. He never had the luxury of having an attractive woman or
Mhm.
whatever the case is. But now you beat him down to no end, and it leads to other stuff, which doesn't make it right. He should just leave, and probably some people can't do. They can't walk away. They can't walk away because they feel if he walk away, then he knows like, damn, I might not be able to return. And somebody might be able to be in my place. It's a lot of dynamics that you have to think about. And we can't just say one side is toxic without saying shit. We all are toxic and misunderstood. That's how I would say it. We all, excuse my language, we all fucked up in so many ways.
Yeah.
Everybody has their issues. Everybody has trauma. It's the way you deal with it and the way you put it out in the atmosphere. Some people can handle it better and carry on and do what they got to do, and you'll never know. And if you ever find yourself, I never would have thought of that. I never would have thought because they didn't
Yeah.
put it out there like that. They were able to keep it all in. Something like I just can't. Yeah, I just gotta get this shit out. No matter where you at, grocery store, doctor's office, so on. You just don't have no fucking self control when it comes to that. And then you say the guy is toxic, but we know you're toxic, which causes your children to be toxic, and it just go
Yeah.
on and on and on.
No, man. It's funny you were sitting there talking about, and I'm asking myself, what would be my toxic traits? And number one that comes to my mind, I don't give a fuck. I will discard somebody who I think is doing some foul shit in a heartbeat. Don't care, no questions asked. Like I said, I tell people, let's say you never really tell people where they stand with you. And I always tell people, if you pay attention to me, the things I do, how I move, you'll know where you stand around me. You will not have to ask a question. You're gonna know. We good? Yeah. We ain't good? Nope. You're gonna know. And I'm not gonna communicate it to you. I'm not gonna verbalize it to you. People are gonna say, well, how does that go? Shit. If you come up to the door and you're knocking, you know I'm usually home at that time and I don't answer the door, guess what? That means you cut off. I ain't got to tell you. Life gonna show you. If you call and you text during football season and ask what the fuck you want, you would just know.
Wow, wow.
He ain't feeling you. Because there's a way that I do things that are subtle. There's a way that I do things that are harsh. The people that don't roll with me, no, they get the harsh treatment. They get the asshole. They get the bull with the horns. You know, it's far easier for me to deal with somebody that I don't want to deal with by being forthright. And people have seen that on that show. People used to be on the panel saying, "All right, what this." Fade away, 2 points. Got to deal with you no more. You out of my hair. That's the road you want to take. Drive it. Make sure you got plenty of fuel because you can't come back this way. This gas station is closed. But I saw somebody get gas. Oh, yeah, nah. They're on the good people list. They can get gas. You on the asshole people list. You on the permanent shit list. And there's a permanent shit list that I have. That just never. What does that say, good fellas? Can't pay the debt? Fuck you, pay me. Building burned down? Fuck you, pay me. I could be like that. I just rather not. But some people push you in the corner. And when you get pushed in the corner deep enough, guess what? You start to push back. And a lot of women, they don't realize that a good guy is only going to be pushed so far. And like David said earlier, somebody's going to ask, what'd you do to him? Because they know this guy has never, ever mistreated anybody. So now you say he's mistreating you. The people say, nah, you did something. You done called him during football season, or you done did something. What'd you do? So people, I'm out there to tell you, the same way a good woman can be turned bad, same way a good man can be made to act out of pocket. He don't want to, but he sees, in order to protect himself, he got to push you away. He got to treat you in such a manner that you look at him as toxic, but you don't look at him as bad for you. You look at him as a guy who used to do good things for you, and you want to get that back because you realize you need it now. And that bird has flew the coop, and he ain't coming back. He going south for the winter. Dad left to get some milk. Dad ain't came back. So be careful how you Just be careful how you treat people who mean you no harm. Don't do them wrong.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I think a lot of the culture is set up where people are not at full strength. So a lot of times you get into relationships because that person can provide something for you, or they've done something for you that, because sometimes it may be a woman, they may see you down and out, and they they became part of the process to kind of build you up and got you back on track. It was a scenario in cocktail conversations, snake in the grass. Got a lot of heat from that scenario because it was personal. It was a personal. All of these scenarios are personal. Some people just never read the book to know, oh shit, that's about me, and they just never read it. But this situation is kind of got down and out. Um, had you know between the both of them, family members, they would all come together. She took him in. He was having a hard time. Uh, Eventually, they would hang out. He ended up moving in with her. They were doing things. She rebuilt them up. But then he got to a point. He said, "I think I want to get my own spot." And once that happened, shit hit the fan. Like, oh, all of a sudden, after a year, when we've been doing everything together, now you want to get your own spot and leave me astray. And I can understand both sides, but I guess for his side, he probably was thinking, okay, back now. And people probably seen his walk and seen he's back um, in his element. But then you have the woman who, you was a pitiful fool before I came into your life. And now all of a sudden you want to go your own direction. So that's kind of like, it's just like each situation, so many situations is like ambiguous. You just never know people motives, whatever. So that's why you got to have to like know the whole story. So there's really no concrete answer, but if you have different details, that's why it's important to know the story, the backstory to certain situations. So when people just automatically say, "Oh, this person's this or this person's that," you can't always necessarily believe it. What's up, Shank? What's good, fam? So that's where we that's where we at with this. So our man toxic or misunderstood. Some men are toxic, and a lot of situations are misunderstood
Hmm.
because you only get most of the time if you're on the outside looking in, you only get pieces of information. You see how they do it in journalism, the news, whatever. You get a small part of it, and you draw conclusions based on that. Until you get more information, your decision making will change. And and even going through the process with cocktail conversations, I would post stuff and people were like, I need more information because they needed more information to draw a conclusion, but I only could give them what I had. So I was asking, with the information I gave you right now, what's your story? What's the feedback? And a lot of times, again, remember, sometimes you only get information from that female or that male, and you're not hearing the other side. So, and when people say, "Well, they're just messy," a lot of our situations are fucking messy because no
Yeah.
one has all the whole information. So everything, I'm gonna say this: it's an absolute. Everything is messy, unless you have 100% of the information. It's all over the place. And that's where you have to be at any day and time. And social media
There's
will just
something that
make it
David
worse.
said. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done after that.
There's something you said about being used. People understand something. It's a simple concept. We all should strive to be useful to somebody. Because if you ain't useful, by definition, you're useless. So it makes no sense to isolate yourself to the point where nobody can depend on you. Now, I understand if you have some malaise that has rendered you inambulatory, if you will, for certain things. You just can't do it. You ain't got it today, whatever the case is. But if you go through your entire life not being of use to somebody, somebody can't use you as a reference. Somebody can't have you do something for them, even if it's something small. Then you never gonna have what you really want or need to flourish in this world. They say men, the difference between men and women, excuse me, our women are human beings, men are human doings. A man that's sitting around on the block can't help somebody move something, can't help somebody do something. He ain't no good. He ain't gonna be no good to anybody. That's what they call trifling, good, good for nothing. He nothing but a bump on the log. And these are some of the types of women. I'm sorry. These are type of these are excuse me. These are some of the types of men that get a lot of women. Why? Because the women said you got to depend on me. I don't have to depend on you. And when it don't go right, she can talk shit about you. She can say you're worthless, you're shiftless. Hell, you ain't even good in bed. And she ain't wrong. She she really ain't wrong. But the question becomes, what what percentage of men is that? Because the vast majority of men in this country, they're useful. Now, they may not be knocking down the dollars like that. They may not be able to pull the women like that. But if you ask them to do something, they'll find out a way to get it done. And if they can't get it done, they got some people. They know they can call and say, hey, how can I do this? How can I get this done? That's a network that Kevin Samuels always spoke about. Is your net worth as a man is your net worth. You can't find out, you can't pull this engine. Call one of your mechanical friends. They might be inclined to point you in the right direction. Hell, because I can't pull a car engine. I can't pull a motor. I might be able to change the battery out. One of these cars out. I can't change the battery out. It's got to be an older car. I pull an alternator. Might be able to pull a starter. But these newer cars, you forget that. I got to take that to a mechanic. I can't do that. I don't have the tools. I don't have the skill set. But at least I know where to start. You got something that I have no clue where to start. Call them up. Hey, I'm going to replace this deck. Can you help me? Replace a deck? Who the hell? I look like a hardware store? I'll call somebody else for that. I'm watching the game. They're out there. That's why it's important for women at a younger age to surround yourself with men, young men, who know how to do things, who you can call on, not abuse, call them from time to time, and say, hey, can you help me with this? In return, you need to reciprocate. So how do you reciprocate? In a non-sexual manner, hey, I made this, you know what? I got a little extra. I know he don't eat that well. He don't get a home cooked meal often. Call him up and say, hey, did you eat today? Nah, I'm going to bring something by for you. You'll bring it by. That's how you develop a friendship. That's how you develop a rapport. People always talk about, well, I can't get something for nothing. You shouldn't want to. You should always want to give something and receive. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen every time or all the time. But if you just a taker, expect people to catch on and expect them to treat you accordingly. Because you're going to get some guys that's going to say, okay, you know what? The last 10 times she's called me for something, I've said yes. She's never, ever, and I'm not going to call you for anything. You've never, ever bothered to bring anything over, do anything for me. So the next time you call, guess what? I'm busy. Click. That was rather rude. That was rather abrupt. No, I know. Bye. Yeah. Because now you're just using me. You're using me when you see fit. Now I got to turn it to the toxic guys that your customer are dealing with. And we go right back to where we are. Why the guys always got to be toxic? Because they're not showing any love. The ones that could have been about something, they're discarded. They're an afterthought. Oh, he'll do it. Just call. Just tell him I asked you. Just tell him Lars Meyer sent you. Women have. Go ahead, Dave.
No, finish your point.
I was gonna say, women, you gotta break whatever mold it is that keeps you immersed in that mindset. You have to examine it, and when I mean examine, I mean going all the way back to your earliest memories of males in your life and how you've got nothing good from them. Everyone.
So one of the things I wanted to ask was something that somebody earlier, and it had to do with the attraction level. And I was wondering, in your perspective, like, no woman wants a man that nobody wants.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think it's different? Do men want a woman that every man wants, or do men like, okay, order for my woman not to have that attention?
Ah, wow. That's going to depend on a couple of different factors. One is definitely the guy. If you have a guy who wants to be low key and he wants everything about his life to be low key, he's gonna go for the woman that many men are not targeting because he doesn't want to fight that fight. He's not built like that. Nothing he's ever done has been in that vein. So he's trying to stay away from the limelight. He wants his woman to be low key, and she could be very physically attractive to him, but she doesn't have to be to the masses. And I think that's what a lot of people, excuse me, don't understand about some men. No matter that man's age, he's looking for something that fits his lifestyle, his way of thinking. So if he finds a woman that's a 4, maybe 5 on the desirability beauty scale, for him she's a 10. Why? You ain't got to worry about no guy messing with her. You ain't got to worry about fending off no guy that might find her attractive. Hell, they get together, they spit out 3 or 4 kids. They done worked 20 years together, they went to school. They worth collectively almost $500,000 on paper. And people say, well, damn, how did y'all get there? And they say, we worked. No matter what it was, we worked together. She wanted to go to nursery school. I was at work, stayed home, picked the kids up from school, cooked and cleaned. I went to work at night. She take care of the kids at night, come home today. I get the kids off to school, I go to work. It's a team effort. That's what they built it on. Then you got the other guy who's out there. He the breadwinner. His wife is a trophy wife, but she get bored sitting at home. She ain't doing nothing. She's developed a social media following. Next thing you know, she get a little wild. She get a little crazy. Next thing she out there having a fling. Money get wind of it, come back home. It's all on the wall now. Everybody know about it. He said, how could you do me like this? I gave you everything that I could give you, except the one thing. Time. Women want time. They want money. They want that time to be spent with them. And they always say the worst thing for a woman is boredom, because she's gonna find something to get into, or something's gonna find its way in her. So it's a fine line. And the only way that fine line is going to be walked is if the two sides communicate effectively. I'm not talking about talking at each other. I'm talking about having a conversation about what needs are not being met, what your goals are. Because just because something is like this now, don't mean it's going to stay like this. The weather changes. Got to have an umbrella for them rainy days. Yep. Got to have some AC for them cool days. But one thing you got to do is you got to have it together. You can't have it separate. It doesn't work like that.
So it has my mind spinning, whatever. And the next topic I keep thinking about, boredom in adulthood. Boredom. And I see people on social media talking about they bored. Man's 50. And I say to myself, you need attention. Because if you have to voice it on social media,
Yep.
you're looking for attention. Because if I'm bored, I'll say, let me find me if I don't have nothing to do, but I always have something to do, let me find me a good movie. I probably won't even
Yeah.
make it through the movie. Or I can go through and listen to podcasts about boxing or whatever the case is, or other podcasts about relationships, whatever. Like I got something to do. Whether you want to have a cocktail on the side or do what you want to do, you'll be fine. Eventually, your old ass will fall asleep
Yeah.
and you'll wake up the next day. But when you need people to be around, and you need that, and you thirst for that, and you desire it, that says a lot too. That says a lot too. That you just ultimately have to have people around you to function. And everybody needs their time away. They need their time for themselves. What you say, Shank? I know cousin people say it a lot. Yeah, and they do say it a lot. They're bored. And there's, unless you totally accomplished everything you accomplished in your life, you always got shit to do. So for Shank, whether you're a party promoter or whatever the case is, you may be studying other party promoters to see what their gimmick is, what they do to improve your craft. It's always something you can do. Uh, I'm sure Herb has his style. He follows certain people and brings
Mhm.
back information from them. I'm more of a sports type of person because I believe sports is universal. Is in every It impacts every phase of life. That I might look at some of them or read certain books and I bring it to the forefront, but it's always something to do. And so yep, I do, and that's what you need to do. You can always hone in on your craft, but when you say on board.com, that's looking for attention in the wrong places, and it just lets you know that's a code for somebody to get into your inbox. Yeah, what you doing?
Yeah.
You bored?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
let's
an
hang out.
invitation.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
let's
really.
have a drink. That's the code. That's the code for a guy. That's the code. But y'all don't know that. Y'all don't want to hear that shit. Y'all just like, oh, I'm just bored. No, that's the code. That's how guys gonna receive it. So you want to hang out, and maybe you want to get plowed later. You want to get John Deere later. Put shit out there like that because you can put it out there, but it's how people interpret it that counts, that
Yeah.
matters. So if you putting it out there, you're like, I didn't mean that, but 300 other guys watching it, thirsty tonight. And then you'll come back with a post. Everybody's in my inbox because I said I was bored.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted. That's what you wanted. You
Yeah.
was asking for that. Be careful with words, people. I ain't gonna. We ain't gonna stay on too long. I know Herb, you going through your stuff, whatever, and I see you got the hiccups, and I already know how that shit is. That's the worst
Yeah,
world.
man.
Got that
The
damn
last two
hiccups.
days has been brutal.
That's horrible. Any closing comments? Because again, we always go spin the block with these conversations. They don't go nowhere. Y'all can
Oh
try to
yeah.
avoid it, like,
It's
oh, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad they ain't talking about that because it's gonna come back up again.
this is the peculiar thing though. No matter how much this is discussed between us, people won't have this discussion honestly. And what I mean by that is this: they will not put all the cards on the table. They will not say, when I was 16, this happened. And people won't allow them to say, when I was 16, this happened. So let's take a young woman who was molested by whomever. She's not allowed to have that space to be open without judgment. And I think that's the biggest thing that we we need to lay down is judgments on why something happened. Take it as it's presented to you, and don't feel the need to break it down. Because in doing that, the person who's coming to you almost feels as if they're being attacked. And that's not how you want an individual to feel if you want that individual to come clean. So, number one, let a person lay their burdens down without attacking them, without feeling need to do any more than just know that something's happened. Because eventually, the truth is going to come out. And I think that's what everybody's afraid of. I think a lot of people are afraid of being duped. And it's understandable. Nobody wants to be made to look like a fool. But if your intentions are pure and you're honest, there's no way you can ever look like a fool. Now, you can look like somebody who's been taken advantage of, which is one of the things that I wrote on the hard truths list. Anybody's capable of being taken advantage of. The only thing you need to reside in yourself is this. My intentions were pure. So they took advantage of somebody who was pure. And now I know better. I know that when the next time I see that person, treat them like they're non-negotiable. Leave them alone. Don't say hi to them. Don't say bye to them. Because they abuse your kindness. They took it for weakness. And that's what we have to get accustomed to. We have to get accustomed to cut people off who didn't mean us well. And that's it.
It's a whole nother, I should have wrote this down. I have to write it down. That's a whole nother show itself. Cutting people off. Cutting people off. Eliminating toxic individuals. How do we go about doing that? That's a conversation that needs to be had because
I copied the list on that, so I'll send that list over to you.
Okay. So again, we're not going to, like I said, these conversations will always spin the block, but we're going to get out of here tonight and just think about some of the things that we said. And I know many of you may have not watched it, but I think some people may get intrigued by clips and stuff, a little small than what was they talking about that part. Let me go on here and click and see what they were saying, whatever. Then there's a great feature on StreamYard that AI creates some of the clips. Makes it easier for me because they categorize, they had the titles and everything. And I just realized that after last week's show, that feature must be something new on StreamYard that I ain't know about. But I'm gonna be interested to see how they go break this one down. And stay tuned, might be some clips circulating as soon as we get off. But anything else from you, Big Bad Wolf? We gonna be out.
No, man, that's it.
Next one.
That's
Who
it.
that jersey? Who that? Who
Like
that? Jalen Rose? That's Jalen Rose jersey?
Yeah, Michigan.
Okay.
Like I said, people, when you hear women say this, understand that she has a right to her beliefs. If you want to know, sit down and say, hey, look, I want to know specifically what guy did what. And just listen. Just écoutez. Just listen.
Because one of the things is guys do want to know, like unbeknownst to what y'all say, like nobody wants to know about somebody else's past. The real G want to know what happened before, because they don't want no surprises, or whatever the case is. They're not going to base their decision totally on that. They don't want all the details. People want to be educated on some things, so they can know how to make their next move. So what's the best predictor of the future? Your past. Your past is always going to come up in the future.
No, yeah.
You can't sweep that away. You can't. You can wear a mask. You can wear a COVID mask. You can wear a hoodie. You can do whatever. You can walk around like that. You're still going to be who the fuck you are. And your past is gonna still seep out, and that's who you're gonna be. It depends
Yeah.
on how you handle your situation. There's some people, their past could be less prevalent because they conducted themselves a certain way. And that's people that's probably at an even kill. Their stuff is always when you have people at this level, then all of a sudden there, then they want to be there. You're like, yo, holy fucking teeter totter. They all over the place. So you know their range of emotions, like they can't control it. Like it's about to be a major outburst. Shit about to go down because they can't control what's going on. But that's that. I'm gonna leave y'all at that. Leave that food for thought. We out good people. On to the next one. Everybody have a good Independence Day, 4th of July, or whatever, how you celebrate it. If anything, just celebrate family, good eating, good drinking, and just living and just hoping that everybody could progress on for another day. Because I can tell you what I think it's about to be with everything that's going on, it's about to be a wild summer. Buckle up. Pay attention to your surroundings
Yeah.
and the atmosphere you in because again, young people don't got filters. I'm gonna leave you at that. That could be another. Throw that on the list. Young people don't got filters. They out there, but you know why they out there?
All right, people. Take
Because they
care.
thought decisions that impacted them. But we out. On to the next. Peace.